Welcome back to another episode of my devlog series about this call screener app project that I'm building. Today, I'm going to talk about 3 things that happened this week and at least the biggest ones. All right, so one of the first things that I started off with this week is actually working on improving the user experience on the call screener. And one of the issues there is the actual transcription system. It's meant to be a real-time system, but the previous iterations didn't have the real-time in it. Because of the way the transcription system works is that there's a partial system and then there's a final system. The partial is essentially the dirty version of that transcription, and the final is what my server is sending back to my client. But that final has a huge delay in it. So to get it working like this, I'm not going to get into detail now. It's essentially just having a buffer and then and then putting all the partial raw transcripts back to this buffer and then sending back to that client. Say once you get your final, then you reset that buffer to 0. Once it gets a final, it means that's a new sentence that you need to then add back to your client. Next thing is the call transfer system. So this is something that I talked about last week, and the importance of why this is a needed feature to complete the whole call screening system. And just to give you a context, a call transfer system essentially lets you transfer the call from your call assistant back to your device, and then so that you can now actually speak to the caller once again. I think that's the best probably way of explaining it. So I've added that ability so that your actual AI call assistant will actually check, are you available to take the call now?
Great news, John. First name is available right now. I'm transferring you to Tim. Enjoy your conversation.
Okay. Oh my God.
Hi, all first name. I have John from Amazon Web Services on the phone. Calling regarding an urgent matter about...
So really here what we need. So what you need to do is you have to create a dedicated line for your call assistant. And by creating this dedicated line, you can actually perform the call transfer. Not really though, but the thing is, you would only want to have a dedicated line for your AI if you're planning to perform any outbound calls with your AI. The problem really for me is I didn't want to spend more money on creating a dedicated line for your call assistant. And I'm not being cheap here, at least. I guess it just depends on how you want to use your personal assistant or your call assistant here. For me, I don't personally think I'm going to be using my call assistant for any outbound calls. Maybe sometime in the future when you want to maybe reserve a table, maybe you want to book a flight or a hotel, maybe you could do that with your AI. But the thing is, for me, I just don't think I need it now. But it is something that I've written down in the backlogs. We can add this feature particularly for those users who are more like power users, who might want to have this feature. I've also been able to prove that you can perform a cold transfer, let's say for normal users. For example, for me, I was recently testing this feature and I found it got working. I'll show a video here. And really the way it works is that the AI would be immediately disconnected from the call, and then you would immediately be then transferred into that call. Like there will be no introduction whatsoever or a buffer where you can like speak to your AI and then ask some more questions before connecting. It would literally just place you into that call between the AI and the caller, and then you would then be able to start talking to them. Yeah, so now I finally got it working. You can actually, I could say now, like I've completed the whole system. You can now transfer the call from your call assistant back to your device and actually speak to the caller so that you don't have any problems or any issues if you mistakenly transfer the caller to your AI assistant, and you can now bring them back to your phone and actually speak to them directly. So there we go. Lastly, I want to talk about the business side. We're going to talk about business. Maybe I could start off with what I've been reading so far. So this week I started reading off the Product-Led Growth and Traction by Gene Weinberg or something like that. And with at least the Product-Led Growth, I thought that was a really useful book. I guess it gave you multiple ways of how to price the product. So for the one that I'm building, I'm using something called a cost plus pricing model. But he also said that the cost plus pricing model can hinder your growth and stuff like that. And he even emphasized that usage pricing is not gonna, it's like putting an anchor to your feet, because it's gonna just drag you down. It's gonna prevent you from scaling upwards. And so you have to find something called a value metric for your application. And in the book, he said, one of the most common traps is charging per user. For many businesses, charging per user is like tying a rope to an anchor that is already tied to your feet, then tossing that anchor overboard. You're gonna get dragged down until you figure out how to cut the rope and pick a new value metric. And he said, as a SaaS business, you cannot simply rely on competing for the cheapest price due to the cost of high churn rate. So, and then he outlined so what makes a good value metric? A good value metric is something that's easier to understand for your customers, where they would essentially go to your pricing page and they can see what they're getting, and they can easily understand which pricing plan they would be at. It's also in line with the value that the customer receives in the product, and it can grow. And I think the most important thing here is that it can grow with the customer's usage of that value. So for my case, at least, because it's a phone app, the way I design my value metric is not based on the number of usage. So I'm moving away from that model and then to something much more simpler. And that's the number of minutes of usage, which means now the longer they use the calling system, the longer you use the app, that means the longer you're gonna get charged. That's what he did. So it's impossible to game the system, because there's definitely multiple ways of pricing this. I think this is probably the best way of doing it, at least for my case. I don't really know how else to go. I don't know how else to price this, to be honest. Anyway, I think I'm gonna just end it here. So this week, at least, I understood the importance of value metrics based on the book Product-Led Growth. The pricing should be simple, it should be scalable, and it should be profitable. It should be based on the usage of the application, and it should grow with the customer's usage of that value over time. So previously, I talked about I think last week I talked about the usage per resource. Now I'm going back and saying that's not going to be the way I'm pricing this. It's going to be based on the number of minutes, number of duration of usage of the whole application itself. I guess I got to be clear. The number of call minutes. If you're a builder just like me and you're getting into the business side of things as a beginner, here's a video that you might want to watch based on the different books that I started reading that changed my business journey from builder to something who thinks about business now. So check that out.